so that we can just bring all of the people of God together and we can all just learn and grow. Sound good? All right. So again, my name is Demetria Gilkey, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity to spread positive just news about God and share a wonderful Bible lesson with you all tonight. And so before we get started, I want to start us off with prayer. And so that's what I'm going to do. So here we go. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to use me to share your word with your people. Thank you for any visitors that are here for the very first time on happy hour. They may be uncomfortable or maybe unsure of how this works, but thank you for bringing them to me, to us, to St. Stephen's. Lord, I thank you for safe travels to the campus. I thank you for everybody who was on their way online to listen to me and to be inspired. Lord, I thank you that this is not about me, but this is about you. And I pray that you will reduce anything about me and increase all about you. This is all about you and your word. Lord, I pray for the people that are sick right now in the hospitals and the beds, and they feel like giving up, and maybe they have the coronavirus or they're dealing with some other issue that they've been dealing with for a while, or they've just been diagnosed with something sad and crazy and terminally ill. But God, we know that you are amazing. You have all the power in your hands. You are almighty, and that you can cure things. You can heal people. And we just pray that you will be with the family members of people that are sick, that you will give them strength and comfort and empathy, as well as any healthcare workers, anybody out there that is working in a hospital, a nursing home, what have you, urgent care, ER, you name it, Lord. I pray for those people that you will protect them and cover them and be with them every day and every night that they are away from their families. Lord, I pray for the message tonight that you will increase me in this message and help me to just really deliver this. And I just thank you. I give you all the glory, the honor, and the praise. Amen. 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 All right. So, hello, Crystal James, my buddy in Indianapolis. I love you. I'm so happy you're watching. Hello, my love, Aaron. Hello, Reverend Durham. I'm so excited to see you. Let's see who else is on here. Cleora Williams. Hello. Hello, Connie. Hello, Nidra, Jackie, Yvonne. Ooh, anxious for the word. Woo, I'm anxious too. It's happy hour, y'all. So feel free. We're getting ready to get started. Share this with all your friends. Put this on your Facebook page. It's time to get in the word, y'all. All right. We just had our prayer. And so when I was asked to do this today, I thought about, okay, what do I want to talk about this Monday? And so I started thinking, I started praying, I started thinking, and this common but popular story came to mind. And so I want to share that with you all. And of course, once I start sharing it, you're going to be like, oh, I know this. So that's okay, because every time you go through a story that you may know, or there's always something that you can learn. There's always something. There's always a lesson that maybe you forgot or maybe you needed to be refreshed. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to be using the NIV, so the New International Version Bible, the NIV. And so that's where I will be reading from. We're going to be in the Old Testament. And we're going to be in the book of Judges, okay? So hello, Anna Johnson. Hello, hello, hello. All right, so we're going to start with chapter 13. Now, this isn't the heart of what we're going to be talking about today, but this is the setup, right? This is the background. So anytime I teach Bible studies or Sunday schools or what have you, I don't like to start with the meat and potatoes, okay? I like to start with an appetizer. So give you a little bread and butter and give you maybe a fried appetizer or something. So fat, I know. So anyways, let's start with Judges 13. So at the very beginning, it talks about the Israelites, right? And the Israelites did evil, and we're in chapter 13. They were doing evil in the eyes of the Lord. And we all know that when you are disobedient to God, a lot of times that's where discipline can sometimes come in. You know, God's wrath was getting ready to hit the Israelites. Okay? So they were doing some evil, and so the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. So because the Israelites were doing all of these things that they had no business doing, the Lord said, you know what? I'm going to deliver you all in the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. Whew, not a good thing. Not a good thing. So while this was happening, there was a certain man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of the Danites. So that's a whole lot right there, you guys. But there was a man, and his name was Manoah. And he had a wife, and his wife was sterile, and she couldn't have children, you guys. So heartbroken. She couldn't have children. So the angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, you are sterile and childless, but you are going to conceive and have a son. So imagine this woman. She can't have children. And then an angel comes to her and says, you're going to have a child. So imagine how she felt. And then the angel gives her instructions and says, now see to it, you do not drink any wine, no fermented drink. You don't eat anything unclean, because you will have a baby and you're going to give birth to a son. And this is what's super important. No razor may be used on his head, because the boy is to be a Nazarite. And a Nazarite, and this little boy is going to be set apart from God. And God created this little boy for a huge purpose. And his purpose was, he was going to use this little boy to deliver the people of Israel from the hands of the Philistines. All right, so that's a really important thing. So there was a plan and a purpose immediately before this baby was even born. God said, all right, I've got a plan and a purpose. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to have a baby, and you can't drink any wine, drink any fermented drink. Do not eat anything unclean. You're going to have a son, and do not razor or shave his head, because he is a Nazarite, and he's going to be set apart from birth from everyone else, because I've got a plan specifically for this little baby. Hello, my beautiful Danelle. I see you. Thank you for joining us. So then the woman tells her husband, this angel just came to me, and he's telling me that I'm going to have a baby. What? So then her husband's like, girl, what you talking about? So then she says, no, I'm serious. This is what the angel says. And he's still a little like, So then he's like, you know what? I'm going to pray to God. Oh, Lord, I beg you, let the man of God you sent us come again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born. So God heard Manoah, and the angel came back. So the angel comes back, and the angel sees the woman out in the field, and she goes and grabs her husband. And then the angel begins to share exactly what was said to his wife. Your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or any fermented drink, or eat anything unclean. She must do everything that I have commanded her. So that's what the angel says. And so then, at that point, she gives birth to a boy, and his name is... Anybody know what his name is? I'm going to give you 10 seconds in the Facebook Live to see if anybody knows. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so the name of this little boy is a name that we all know about, that we've heard about as little kids and older. His name is Samson. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Tonight's lesson is called Sin, Lies, and Samson. That's right. Good. Good job, Crystal. She's got it. Samson. That's what tonight's lesson is about. Sin, lies, and Samson. Woo! We be getting ready to go in, you guys. So, good job, Nessa, my cousin and sister. So, Samson, he gets married, you guys. So, he goes down to a city called Timnah. He meets a woman there, and she's a Philistine woman, okay? And when he returns, he tells his father and his mother, I want to be married to this woman, and I want you to go get her for me. And his mother and father say, isn't there anybody else that you want to be married to? Like, why would you go with a Philistine woman? And so what they didn't understand was that was actually God's plan for him to marry this woman. So he marries this woman, and long story short, they get married. And let me tell you, Samson, God gave him some crazy supernatural strength. So much strength that when he was walking one day to meet up with this Philistine woman, a lion jumps out and darts out at him. Now, most people would lose their minds if a lion is about to attack you. I don't know about you all, but I'm not going to stand there and pray. I'm going to take off and go that way, right? So what happens is Samson uses his crazy supernatural strength, and he tears the lion apart with his own hands. Now if that doesn't tell you anything, I don't know what will. But the fact that this grown man can sit here and tear apart a lion with his own hands and then had the nerve to eat the honey that was inside and the bees that were inside of the lion, it's just crazy to me. So he gets married to this woman, and he's sitting around a bunch of people at this party because it was customary, like a reception after a wedding, they had a feast, right? And so he's saying, let me tell you all a riddle. So he tells the people a riddle, and he says, if you can give me the answer within 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me the answer, you must give me 30 garments and 30 sets of clothes, okay? So he starts out with his riddle. Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. So at this point, 3 days go by. 3 days go by, and nobody can figure out this riddle. So Samson's current wife, who is a Philistine, she's curious herself. And so they tell her, coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. So then Samson's wife, she falls down to him and she says, you hate me. You don't really love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't even told me the answer, and I'm your wife. And he says, I haven't even explained this to my father or my mother. So what makes you think I'm going to explain it to you? So she cried for 7 days, y'all. 7 days. And at this point, he finally was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. So I'm going to go ahead and just tell her the answer to this riddle, because she's not going to go and tell anybody else. And she does. So at this point, she goes and tells the people, and he doesn't know it. And so before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the town approach Samson, and guess what? They're able to tell him his riddle. So Samson starts off, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Samson said to them, or that's what they said, and Samson said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, woo! You would have not solved my riddle. Dang, why do you have to call her a heifer? But anyways, so the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and Samson's mad at this point. And guess what? All of his supernatural strength, it starts coming back out again, you guys. So at this point, he's so mad. You know what he does? he gives his Philistine wife away to someone else that was at his reception, at his feast. Who does that? He just gives this wife away and said, you can have her, because she betrayed him. She went and told this riddle, had no business running her mouth, and now Samson is angry. Okay. So at this point, are you guys feeling me on Facebook? Let me know you're feeling this story, because we're right now in the appetizer, but we're getting ready to get into the meat and the potatoes of this. All right. So now we're in chapter 15. So later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, now you all in the Israel times and those times, they were very, very dependent on grain and wheat, and that was their economic for their society. That was how they made a living. That's how they ate. That's how their economy went. Thank you all for the love. So at this point, it's wheat harvest time. So Samson takes a young goat and went to visit his wife. So even though he gave her away, he goes to visit her. And he says, I'm going to go to my wife's room. But her father wouldn't let him in. So her father says, I was so sure that you were through with her, that you hated her, that I gave her to your friend. So Samson said to them, this time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I'm going to harm him. I'm going to harm him good. So Samson is still mad about what they did to him and about his wife and how she told the riddle, costing him all this stuff, right? So at this point, Samson says, so he went out and caught 300 foxes, you guys, 300, and tied every pair of tails, lit the torches. So he takes 2 foxes, puts them together, ties them with their tails, takes a fire match, lights them up, and sets the entire grain field of the Philistines on fire. It's war. It is war time now, you guys. So he burns up all of their stocks, their grain, everything, the vineyards, the olive groves, everything, you guys. And when the Philistines find out about this, they said, who did this? Who did this? And they found out it was Samson. Samson did it. So the Philistines went up and burned her. The Philistines burned his wife to death. Hello, Lumilla. Hello. So the Philistines burned his wife to death, y'all. She dies. And Samson says, since you've acted like this, I'm not going to stop until I get my revenge. So he started attacking them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave. So then the Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. And the men of Judah asked, why have you come to fight us? We have come to take Samson prisoner, to do him as he has did to us. So it's about to get real, y'all. So then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave and said to Samson, don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us? And he answered, I merely did to them what they did to me. So the Philistines show up and they say, I merely did, and they say, we've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. And Samson says, swear to me that you're not going to kill me. They said, we're not going to kill you. We're just going to hand you over to more Philistines. And so Samson says, okay. So they bind him up with the ropes. And at this point, they lead him up to Lehi. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson. The ropes on his arms, he breaks them apart. And he finds this big jawbone of a donkey and wham! Grabs it and strikes thousands of men. I mean, kills all these folks, all by himself with a donkey's jawbone. And he says, with a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. And when he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone. And at this point, he was so thirsty. He was so tired. He said, Lord, now I done made this victory. I'm thirsty. So God opened up a hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. And then Samson drank it, and his strength returned, and he was revived and replenished and all of that. And Samson led Israel for 20 years, you all, in the days of the Philistines. So now that's the background. I know that was a lot, but I really wanted to give you some background and let you all know what was happening, because now it's meat and potato time. All right? Get your forks out. It's time to get to it. All right. So now we are in chapter 16. And at this point, this is where Samson meets a beautiful woman. He meets a beautiful woman. Anybody know what her name is? I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to give you all 20 seconds and see if anybody know, starts with a D, who Samson meets. 10 seconds. Who does Samson meet? He meets Delilah. He meets beautiful, beautiful Delilah. So one day, before he meets her though, he was in this city called Gaza. And he saw a prostitute, y'all. Thank you, Charles. I see. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Crystal. I have a little bit of a glitch on my phone from you guys, so that's why I went ahead and said it. Good job, Nessa. All right, so one day he is in a city called Gaza, where he sees a prostitute, you all. So he sees a prostitute and he spends the night with her. Lord have mercy. He spends the night with her. But it's not Delilah yet. So the people of Gaza were told, Samson is here, Samson is here. So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, at dawn, we'll kill him. But Samson, he knew what was up. Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. So yes, he did sin. Yes, he did lay up with that woman, but he was smart a little bit to know they getting ready to kill you, so you need to get on up and get moving. And that's what he did. So he laid there until the middle of the night. He got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate together with 2 posts and tore them loose, bar and all. And he lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of a hill that faces Hebron. So sometime later, he meets a beautiful woman. And y'all, it's Delilah. It's Delilah, y'all. So the rulers of the Philistines, he meets Delilah. Let me go back, y'all. I done got so excited. So he meets Delilah. And the rulers of the Philistines went to her and they said, see if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him so we may tie him up and subdue him. So let's pause for a minute. Delilah was beautiful. Samson fell in love with her, right? Can you imagine what she looked like? Can you imagine what he looked like? So remember when he was born, God gave him this supernatural strength. He was super strong, and there was a special instruction when he was born by his mother that the angel said, do not ever use a razor or a shaver on his head, because that's where his strength comes from. That's where God gave him his strength, right? And so at this point, the rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, see if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver. Now, I looked it up. 1,100 shekels of silver was equivalent to 28 pounds. That's a lot of money for back in those days. I don't know about you all, but if I was back in those days, that's a lot of money. So Delilah, you would think, okay, Samson is in love with Delilah, and you would think she's in love with him and she's not going to sell her man out. But guess what, y'all? She sells him out. So Delilah decides, you know what? I care more about this money than Samson. So I'm going to get this money. Forget about Samson. I can find me another man another day. I'm getting ready to get this money. So that's what she does. So here's how it starts off. So Delilah says, tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued. So Samson answers, if anyone ties me with 7 fresh thongs that have been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man. That was the first answer he gave her. So then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh thongs that had not been dried. And I know you all like thongs. Well, a thong back in those days meant a bowstring, okay? So she tied him with them, and with men hidden in another room, she calls to him and says, Samson, the Philistines, they're upon you. But he snaps the thongs or the bowstrings easily, like a piece of just string. He snaps them, right? So the secret of his strength was not discovered. So imagine how she felt. He lied to me. Does that sound familiar? So then Delilah said to Samson, you have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied. He said, if anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man. So this is the second scenario. Use some dry, never been used ropes, okay? So then Delilah does that. She took the new ropes and she tied him with them. Then, with men hidden in the room, she called to him, Samson, the Philistines, they're on their way to get you. But then Samson, he snaps off the ropes of his arms as if they were threads. So then Delilah then said to Samson, until now you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me, how can you be tied? How can you be tied? Then he says, if you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten them with a pin, I'll become as weak as any other man. So while he was sleeping, Delilah took the 7 beautiful braids on his head, wove them into fabric, and tightened them with a pin. And again, she said, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He awoke from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. At this point, she's like, I give up. How can you say I love you when you won't even confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength. With such nagging, she prodded him day after day after day until, y'all, he was tired. He was tired. And you know what? He broke down. And he told her everything. And I want to pause for a minute because sometimes we can be so blind, we can be in so much sin that our sin blinds us and will make us act a fool and forget common sense. Because think about it. Earlier, we talked about his first wife, the Philistine wife. She betrayed him because of that riddle. Remember, we talked about that. He kept saying, I'm not going to tell these people this riddle. And this woman was like, tell me the riddle. And he ended up telling her, and she ran her mouth. And then that's when all madness happened. So he should have learned from his experience that he was betrayed before. And it's in the same way that the Philistine woman did it. But he was blinded by lust and love that he got weak, y'all. He might have been physically strong. We know that because God gave him a supernatural strength. But y'all, mentally, Delilah just wore him down, and he finally just gave in and just let it be told. He told something that he should have never told. He missed all the warning signs. And here in verse 17, he told her everything. This is the turning point. No razor has ever been used on my head, because I have been a Nazirite, set apart to God since birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. His strength was getting ready to be gone, y'all. She was getting ready to get them shekels of silver. So when Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the rulers of the Philistines. She couldn't get there fast enough. She finally knew the truth of what gave Samson so much strength. Come back once more. He has told me everything. So the rulers of the Philistines returned with the silver in their hands. Having put him to sleep on her lap, she strategically put him to sleep on her lap. She called a man to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him. He wakes up, y'all, and his strength is gone. And then she called Samson, the Philistines are up on you. And that's when he wakes up then. And he was thinking, they've been on me hundreds of times. This isn't nothing new. I'm going to go out here and do my business and take care of the Philistines all these other times that I have before. This isn't nothing. Until he realizes his strength is gone. His power is gone, y'all. And at this point, he can't do anything. The Lord had left him. So then the Philistines, they seized him. And you know what they did to him, y'all? They gouged his eyes out and took him down to Gaza. They bound him with bronze shackles. They set him to grinding in the prison. But guess what? We all know that even when we cut our own hair, what does it do? It grows back. So even though they shaved his head, they weren't thinking. They might have got him that one time. But honey, that hair was starting to grow back. That hair was coming back out of that scalp. And what does that mean? His strength was coming back. His strength was coming back. So they took his eyes out. They gouged his eyes. They bound him up in bronze shackles. And then they had him working in a prison, y'all, which was super sad. Now, in verse 23, the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to their god, Dagon. And in those times, the Philistines didn't worship the God, the only God, the Holy One of Israel, the Redeemer. They didn't worship our God. They worshiped some silly piece of equipment, right? That's what they worshiped. And that's why God was so angry with them, because they put an idol in his place. And so at this point, they're all excited and celebrated. They finally got Samson. They're having this big celebration. Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. And when the people saw Samson, they were super excited and they started praising and they were so happy. And they said, our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain. And they said, bring Samson out. Entertain us, Samson. So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. All right, so Samson comes out. And at this point, his hair has grown, and they forgot that his strength was out of his hair. So they don't even realize what they're getting ready to see and feel and experience. So while they were in high spirits, they shouted, "Bring him out, bring him out." So they brought him out. And so when they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I may lay against them." So there's a reason Samson is brought out with these pillars, and they have his arms on these pillars. And he says, "Put them out, put my arms so I can feel them strategically for a reason." So Samson's up to something. So at this point, the temple was crowded. Men, women, younger, older people. It was full, y'all. All of the rulers of the Philistines were there. They said it was even about 3,000 men and women were there, you guys. 3,000. So at this point, they showed up, and Samson prayed to the Lord, and he said, "O sovereign Lord, remember me. O God, please strengthen me just one more time, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." So Samson is like, let me just get them one more good time. Just one more time. Let me have them. So then Samson reached toward the 2 central pillars on the temple, and he braced himself against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. And then he pushed with all of his might. Woo! He pushed with all of his might. And I'm just sitting here thinking about how strong Samson was, and his hair had started to grow back. And Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." So he pushed with all of his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all of the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than when he lived. And there are some points that I want us to think about before we close. So Samson dies. All of those Philistines die. 3,000 plus people are in that temple. All of the Philistine rulers, their officials, young people, older people, men, women, all of these people are in this temple. And Samson, even though he couldn't see because they took his eyes out, he still had his strength because his hair had grown back out of his scalp, right? And so what I want to say is that in the beginning, God, before Samson was born, God had a plan and a purpose for Samson. And his purpose and his plan was he was going to deliver the Israeli people, Israel, from the Philistines, right? And so he had delivered them for a long time. And a lot of people would say, okay, but Samson died. He did die, but through his death, he conquered the Philistines anyway, and God's plan, his purpose, it was still fulfilled. And that is the most beautiful thing about it. Even though he died, his plan was still fulfilled because all of those Philistine people, those temple people, the rulers, the women, all of these people that were idolizing their God, they were making a mockery of our God of Israel and everything. God still was able to destroy that temple, destroy all that was happening in with the Philistines. And that was his purpose through Samson. And it even says Samson killed more people when he died than while he was alive. And remember, he had killed a bunch of Philistines, thousands of them, with that jawbone of that donkey. He had killed many of them before when he had always taken the pillars and everything and knocked people out with it. So just imagine all of those people before his death, and now he's killed thousands and upon thousands more people through his death. So God's purpose and his plan was fulfilled even in his death. And so I say all that to say that sometimes God will use, when he creates the purpose and plan for your life, it may not seem like it's going the right way or the right path, but God will still find a way to make sure that his plan and his purpose in your life is fulfilled. And believe it or not, we all have a purpose and a plan for our lives. We all have a purpose and a plan for our lives. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you have money or not. It does not matter. As long as you're living, we all have a purpose in our lives, right? And so a couple of quick things before we close. Guard your heart. So in life, this applies to right now. Samson should have guarded his heart against Delilah. You can't in life share every single thing, every single piece of business that you have. You have to be careful who you choose to share all of your information with, and guard your heart. And that's in Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And God gives you red flags and warnings. And he gave Samson those too. But Samson chose to not pay attention and be focused on love and lust and lies and all of that, and sex and everything with Delilah. And you see where it got him, right? So guarding your heart and listening to those red flags and those warning signs. In 1 Corinthians 15:33, it says, do not be misled, for bad company corrupts good character. So you want to be careful who you spend your time with. I know Reverend Cosby always says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So who are you spending your time with? This is super important, because not everybody that's in your boat with you is truly riding for you. There are some people who are secretly jealous, who have a hidden agenda or motive, so you want to be careful. And if you don't know who's truly for you in your circle, I encourage you to pray and ask God to show you and reveal who is in your circle, and ask him also to send you who you need in your life. And God has a plan for all of us. All of us. It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. Your purpose will be fulfilled. And if you're wondering what your purpose is, I encourage you to pray and ask God to reveal it to you, and he will. And if you need some extra instructions and wisdom, go to the book of Proverbs, honey, because there's tons of information and instruction in there. So pray, seek God's face, open your communication with God. He loves you. He wants to hear from you. And I'm going to say a quick prayer before we end. And that will be all for our happy hour. I hope you all have enjoyed us. And I'm going to say a quick prayer, and here we go. So, dear Lord, thank you for this message that was delivered tonight. I know I got a little long-winded, but I got excited because I had so much I wanted to share with your people. I pray, God, that the people that are listening, you will reveal to them your purpose if you have not already, and that they will find it in their heart to pray and seek you and open the communication with you and activate their prayer life. Lord, I pray for the people that are behind this camera, that you will touch them and protect them from anything out there, any coronavirus, any danger that is lurking, God. Lord, I pray for just the people that are out and about that don't know you, that are helpless and hopeless. Help them to understand and restore themselves back to you. I thank you for the opportunity to speak during this happy hour, and I pray that I touch someone's lives. Lord, I thank you for everything you've done for us for this week, and I'm praying, God, you will open up doors for people that are behind this camera and close doors for divine protection. These and all these blessings I ask in your name, Jesus. Amen. Thank you guys for happy hour. I love you all and hope to see you all next Monday at 7 p.m.